Okay, we're up. So it's 7:03. I'm going to call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen for August 18th, 2015 to order. First order of business is approval of the meeting minutes for July 7th and 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for July 7th and July 21st, 2015 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Confirmation of future meeting dates. Right now we have September 1st, 15th, and 29th. That's still okay with everybody?
It is.
Yes.
Item 4 is the approval of payroll and vendor warrants.
I'll move that we approve the current current payroll and vendor warrants.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 5 is citizen speak. Is there any citizen out there that would like to address the board? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 6 was going to be a public hearing on super petroleum. However, the applicant is out of town today, so I think it best to just continue that hearing to our next meeting. So it'll be continued to the September 1st. Okay. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Item 7 is a conference with the planning board warrant articles with Emily Keys-Innes, Chair. Hi, Emily.
Hi,
Hi, Emily.
Thank you all for having me. I wanted to give you a quick update where we were with our zoning process for the October 2015 town meeting and let you know where we're going. So we had our final public workshop last night, and despite the heat, it was attended by a number of people, some of whom had been at previous ones and some of whom were new, which is fantastic. We presented where we were with the various articles. We've pulled 2 off. We're not going forward at the moment with institutional zoning or with the large lot condominiums. Got some excellent feedback. Our online visual survey closed on August 11th, and the results of that are now online on our website, along with the presentations from the last 2 meetings, and I think last night should be going up today or tomorrow. And the comment period, the first round of comments, also closed on August 11th. So the various members are working on redrafting everything. So we have a slight modification to our process after our last discussion. So what we're going to do, it doesn't change much of what we discussed, but just to keep you aware of it, is the articles of the warrant have to be advertised for our public hearing. Our public hearing is September 10th. Advertisement will go in for the first time next Thursday, the 27th. So the articles that we advertise on the 27th, which we will forward to you on the 26th, those will be the articles that go in the warrant. After our public hearing on September 10th, we'll make some final revisions. Those will be our recommendation to the warrant committee, to you, and to town meeting, and you'll receive those on September 14th, along with the final list of any articles that we're pulling, per what we agreed earlier. We're looking to see some of the articles, as we've gotten feedback, are turning out to be, not surprisingly, a little bit more complex. And some, it looks like, may not be ready for October, but may very well be ready for the January deadline for the Maytown meeting. Others are probably going to take a little bit longer. Certainly institutional review is one that, as Tim Serwinski presented last night in response to a question, institutional review got an 85% yes, we think this is a good idea. But summer's not a great time to talk to institutions, especially when many of them are educational. So we know that one will take a lot longer. So that's
the only reason that can't go forward is that,
well, there's no way to even start that process in the middle of the summer. So
correct.
yeah, exactly. So so we'll be looking at that probably for October of next year is my guess. Others, we're still working on where we should be as far as tweaking the language. And we've made a number of changes in response to the public comments. I should also say that in addition to the online comments, and a new comment period has started and will finish on September 1st to give us time to revise for the public hearing. But in addition to using the online forms, people can always email Tim Serwinski. And you should know that all of the members of the planning staff, Bill, Tim, and Julia, were there last night, participated fully. They've been a huge help to this process. We could not have done such a tight process without them. So we really appreciate that. So that's my update.
the condominium bylaws, There were two, correct?
There's two.
Is the other one going forward, or no?
There's a question mark at the moment. So Brian, first, Alex Whiteside has been handling the large lot condos, and there has been a condominium group that both Alex and Brian were working with this spring. So Alex has pulled that for the moment. He wants to take a longer look at it. Brian's going back and forth. He announced last night there's a possibility he might pull that. Again, there's some technical issues that just may take longer, given the short time frame that we had this summer. This summer was more about establishing a new process for looking at the articles than it was about getting every single article
Right.
through. So we've been learning a lot from the process. Certainly, our public outreach has been expanding enormously, again, because of the work of the planning department. Julia was out handing out flyers at the library the other day. Tim's been taking the lead on emailing lots of people and then identifying more lists that we can use. So they've both been working on, when people sign in and they give us their email addresses, that's so that we can build a planning board, people who are interested in zoning and planning board stuff list to use. So but that's something that's a constant improvement. So we've been reaching out and asking, okay, do you know any other way we can get the information out to people? We are a little concerned, and Brian expressed it last night, that not enough town meeting members have been attending this because these are things that will come in front of town meetings. So Brian issued a call, which I heartily second, for town meeting members to attend our the public hearing on the 10th to get an idea of what may be coming in front of them. And then the other thing we're hoping to announce, or will announce at the October town meeting, will be the next steps for preparing for May and October 2016. So we'd like to be able to announce a date of the next forum at town meeting itself, so people that are there are aware of it. So we are not stopping with October.
I got to admit, I do like the process now. I think it's vastly improved from what it was, and you get a lot more feedback and get it quicker and it's great.
It's been great. I was really impressed over the summer at the number of people who participated in the online survey. We had, I think it was over 300 complete responses, so for the full 15 minutes or so of the survey, and over 400 partial responses, where people just answered the things that they were particularly interested in, but not the whole survey, which for a summer survey, only open for about 4 or 5 weeks, was pretty good. I think for the master plan survey we did in 2009, we got pretty close to 700, but it was open for a lot longer period, and it wasn't during the summer. It was open during the school year, so that made a huge difference. So,
I got to admit, too, I got the same response out of the, when I was doing the CPA, trying to hold meetings to get town meeting members, split it up by precincts, and, very, very little response.
right.
I might have gotten 10 town meeting members in 4 meetings. It was disappointing. But
It's a concern, especially with anything that comes before town meeting, of course, but with zoning, where it can change the physical nature of the town. You want to make sure that people are aware of. Now, it could be that everybody's happy with the process, so they don't participate. That often happens, but
This is Milton.
but you want people to be aware that it's happening. And again, it was during the summer months. We knew that. It's really, in many ways, it's a test run for the process this summer, and it's why we did such a huge online participation, or the ability to participate online, that we really hadn't used before. Everything else that we've done in town tends to be, you have to be there in order to participate. But Milton Cable Access filmed everything, which was fantastic, so it goes up onto their YouTube site. As I said, all the presentations and the ability to comment online have been put on our website. And actually, the planning office has been working on revamping our website, so it's a little bit easier to find everything. So over the years, projects got jumbled in with forms and things, so they've been working with other staff members in town to get that organized. So.
I agree with Emily. Emily, I agree with Tom that it's been a great process, and so thank you, and to you and the planning board and the planning staff for organizing it and having a good meeting, a good series of meetings, and bringing this to a new level, I guess is what you might say. It's been a great process.
Well, the other, in addition to the planning staff, the other members of the planning board have been very much involved with us, either writing or pulling together articles themselves or reviewing them, and except for yesterday's meeting, we started to conflict with our own summer schedule, but they've been fully present at the meetings, the first two meetings, which is just fantastic to have that sort of support.
That's great. Emily, I again, like my colleagues, want to congratulate you. I think that, residents commonly say, how do we get information? You guys have done a fabulous job of finding several ways of trying to get input and using every type of method possible, especially during the summer month, and getting a response the way you did is really credible. Nice.
Thank you very much. And of course, what we've learned, we're happy to pass on to any other town department who needs that sort of information. So we are happy to share what we have.
I think it's another best practice that can be shared, so
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8 on the agenda. We have Heidi Vanderbilt Brown, who's the Chief Financial and Operating Officer of Milton Academy, to discuss a presentation on the proposed solar project on Gun Hill Road.
Yes, we are. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Heidi Vanderbilt Brown. This is Dennis Glenn, who's the head of facility services at Milton Academy. And obviously, we have several other people here to help us talk about our very exciting project on Gun Hill Street. I first wanted to introduce myself. I've been the CFOO of Milton Academy for the last 2 months. I started on June 15th. I came from Harvard University, where I was in financial strategy and planning. And I'm very excited to be a part of this community and to get to know the town, and also to continue our neighborly relationship with the town of Milton. It's very important to us. One of the things I wanted to let you know about is this Gun Hill Street solar project, which we very soon hope to begin construction on. It's one of our many environmental projects that Dennis can talk a little bit more about, but we think it's very important not only for our role in the town, but as a member of the Commonwealth, and more importantly for our students. We really want to teach our students the importance of sustainability, and this is a great way to do that. So we will start, we actually have a presentation that I believe is going to go above us here on the screens for those watching. Great, so going to the next slide. Really what we want to do here is just give you a sense of the benefit of solar projects in general and what we've been doing in Milton Academy from an environmental standpoint, describe specifically this Gun Hill Street project, and then answer any questions that you have. And each person who's here in support of our project, we have some experts sitting behind us, and they'll be happy to answer any specific questions that you have. And so I'll turn it over to Dennis for next steps. I would mention, though, that this is one in a series of meetings that we are planning to do. We've already met with Anne Marie. We've met with our neighbor, Marvin Gordon. And following this meeting, we plan to discuss this specifically with our abutters.
As Heidi said, my name is Dennis Glenn. I'm the Director of Facility Services. Unlike Heidi, I've been at Milton Academy for 18 years. And more importantly, I'm a lifelong Milton resident. What we've been doing at the Academy is we're weaving sustainability throughout everything we do now. I can tell you in the last 5 years we've dropped our carbon footprint between 5 and 10% a year. What we've done is we've replaced over 5,000 light fixtures on campus with LEDs and energy-saving fixtures. We've replaced over 100 motors with variable frequency drives. We've taken all our buildings, and I should tell you, we have 60 buildings in 135 acres. So we've taken our buildings and we're putting on direct digital control, building automation systems, and with environmental controls to save energy. So with the help of our solar consultant, Scott Ridley, we went on and pursued looking at solar throughout the campus. We looked at 20, 30 different spots to put solar. We came down to 6 viable. We presented the 6 viable spaces to the trustees. The trustees, after a lot of pros and cons, selected 2. One being Gun Hill site, and the other being Facility Services building in outlying 10 Bay Garage. And talking to Joe Prondak, he said, go ahead with the facilities, pulling permits and all that, but would like us to present to you the Gun Hill Street project. So we went through a process of looking at 6 developers, and we now have signed a letter of intent with Amoresco. Amoresco also developed, we have one solar site on campus, our athletic center. It's a 192 kW site that's very successful. Amoresco was that contractor who installed it. So in this go-around, we hired Scott Ridley, who is our solar consultant, and we have selected Amoresco to a letter of intent, and we hope to get them under contract within the next month to go forward. So with that, I think I'd like to bring up Jerry Cantor from Amoresco.
Two slides now.
Yeah, great, thank you. So my name is Jerry Cantor. I am a project development manager in the Solar PV Grid Tie group at Amoresco. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Luis Alegria. I'm the engineering manager at the solar division of the company.
And we'll walk you through the site and then turn it back over to Milton Academy and take any questions you have.
Great.
So first, let me start and tell you this is a 648 kilowatt array. And the size was based on a couple of factors, including state regulations and then the features of the site. And we'll talk more about the features of the site in a minute. To give you a sense of what that is, there's 1,000 kilowatts in a megawatt. The state of Massachusetts, as of last week, has 903 megawatts installed capacity across the state. That puts us 4th in the country for last year's installed capacity. So the state is definitely a leader in this area. And of that 903, about 25 megawatts are on over 180 different schools across the state. So that's very exciting. It's a great opportunity for the students to see renewable energy and the environmental benefits as well. For more context, can you move one slide up and then we'll go back to this one, just the environmental benefits. So this system in its first year alone will produce about 830,000 kilowatt hours over the course of the year, more during the summer, of course, than in the winter and shoulder seasons. From a greenhouse gas perspective, that's significant. In 1 year, it's 580 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And so what that means, you can put that into gallons of gasoline or cars on the road. Cars is a pretty easy metric. So that's about 120 cars off the road in the first year. And over the course of the 20-year term of a contract, it's 2,300 cars. Now, the system, the lifespan of the system will actually be 25, 30 years potentially. So whether it stays that long will depend on other factors, but it lasts longer than a 20-year time period. It's very sturdy, there's no moving parts, very little maintenance and repair required for these
Will
systems.
Amoresco operate and own the?
That's correct.
And get the tax credits and sell the power to?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Under what's called a power purchase agreement, Amoresco will own it and operate it, and
Okay.
Milton gets the benefits. Yeah. If you want to go back one more, where we started, let me just talk just briefly about the site. So some of the decisions we made in the preliminary design where we are right now, we need to run that through the utility, but as of now we have completed what we call 30% design. And so one of our design decisions was keeping the look from Gun Hill Street as much as we can as it is now. So if you're driving or walking down Gun Hill Street, there will still be a 30-foot buffer of trees in towards the Milton property. We do need to bring down some trees right around the vicinity of the array, otherwise they would cause shading. And we have some renderings and some artist renderings to show you a little bit later on, so we can take a look at what that would look like. On the northern part of the property on the parcel, there are some wetlands, and the system is situated so that we stay completely outside of the 200 and 100-foot buffers, according to the Milton bylaw. So we don't believe, based on this design, that we need to go in front of the Conservation Commission. We do have a little, one more comment on permitting. There is a federal permit we would apply for. So besides our electrical permit and our building permit, we do need to do what's called a construction general permit. That's actually a federal Environmental Protection Agency permit anytime the site disturbance is greater than an acre. And so as part of that, we'll have what's called the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. We have an environmental consultant that we work with on several projects called AMEC Foster Wheeler. And they will prepare the permitting application for us for the EPA, and that keeps the site disturbance to a minimum during construction. And after that, it'll just operate and be as is. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're also minimizing site disturbance by using a ground mount system where we're using ground screws. And maybe I'll have Louise talk a little bit more about the benefits of why we opted for this type of design.
Sure. So we are using what is called the helical screw as foundations. Typical systems use piles, what is called the beam piles. Those are noisy. So the screw just goes into the area of 7, 8 foot tall. It's 4 foundations, what we call tables. And so the machine is a small machine, doesn't produce any noise. So that's good because I mean nobody wants that boom, 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 boom for days or for weeks. So that's a benefit of using this type of foundation.
How long is the construction period?
We have a preliminary construction schedule at the back. We might be on site for about 3 months, give or take. It's going to depend a little bit on the utility timeline, and if we do site prep at the start and then have a little bit of a time where we're waiting for our equipment to arrive, procurement could be about 8 to 10 weeks, or if we condense it all. And it might depend a little bit on snow as well.
But the heavy construction?
Yeah, about 3 months.
Fall.
About 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is considered a small system, so could be less. So this is more or less how the system is going to look. So those are the tables. It's a company called Terrasmart. The screws are from a German company, so they have a lot of experience installing these systems in Europe for 20 years, and here in the States, many systems in all around the country. The system is designed to support the snow and wind of these areas. All the designs are going to be done by a structural engineer. So in that sense, I mean, there is no problem in terms of snow or panels falling or the wind just blowing those tables. It's pretty secure. So what you see there is just a rendering of how the system would look from the air.
So you can see, just to orient you, there's at the top left corner, there's Randolph Avenue cutting across at an angle, and then Gun Hill Street running down from that along the side. You can see the buffer trees that will exist on Gun Hill Street between that and the site. There's a little bit of a bigger, you see the space at the southern end, so that's where shading is the biggest problem on the south. So there's that space there. The panels themselves, on the low end, it's about 2.5 feet off the ground, and on the high end, it's about 8 feet off the ground, and it's a 15-degree tilt. So the snow is going to slide right down. We have systems like this up in several parts of the state on landfills and on ground mounts, and this past winter, even the snow did fall off. So whereas on rooftops, we didn't get a lot of production on our ground mount systems, the snow was able to slide off. I don't know if you head out west on the pike around exit 13, which is where our Amoresco headquarters are located. We have systems using this Terrasmart rack right there on exit 13, right off the pike. So you can see it when you drive. There's 5 of them in the vicinity, and there'll be 5 more in western Massachusetts coming up. So here is a rendering from Gun Hill Street. You can see this is an artist rendering using a photo that Dennis himself, I believe, took recently the last few days. So you see the driveway, that'll be the gravel road that exists now, will still be there. So from certain angles you can kind of see into the site, but there are those vegetative coverings still there. There you can see a pole right there on the corner, the utility pole. What exists right now is what's called single phase, and those poles run down the street. We're going to have 3-phase service from the utility for this site. What that probably will mean is they can either use the same pole and just have kind of a crossbar with 3 wires coming in and out versus 1, or maybe they'll replace the pole. This is going to be up to the utility, not up to us. But that won't change the look at all. There's already the utility, the service running down the road. And this is the design. I think you have a page in front of you. A little hard to see, but the key areas, you can see the panels on the parcel. There is a light blue line on the north delineating the wetlands boundary. There is the area within the fence. So right around the blue panels, there's a fence line. The site will be fenced. Keep everyone out. Security, it's of a 6-foot chain link fence. And then the area within the fence is about 2.25 acre And then the whole area in the red area, there's a red line surrounding it, is about 5.3 acres. And then a little bit on the construction schedule. So again, it'll be about 3 months. It depends exactly when we start, and which will depend a lot on the utility. We have to have a signed interconnection services agreement from the utility, because the way this works is the power gets sent to the grid directly through three-phase. And so once we get that, we can start with our other permitting, environmental and ministerial permits. Equipment procurement is one of the longest parts of this. It'll be 8 to 10 weeks. And we'll be on site over the course of the fall into winter, looking at a very early February commercial operation date, maybe a little sooner than that, but it depends on snow, so we'll be a little conservative while we figure that out. During construction, we might have about 10 to 15 people on site at any given day. Once this is operating, it runs. So we will visit the site once a year on an annual preventative maintenance visit. We monitor the operation of the system on a 24/7 basis. There's a web-based access, so we can see if there's an issue, we'll send someone out. But generally speaking, this will run without interference, ongoing maintenance, people on site every day. It's not going to require that. And this just points out the existing array. So Dennis already mentioned the Athletic and Convocation Center, and that's been operating since 2012. Do you want to say anything more about it, or Scott, do you want to take a minute to come up here?
Yeah, well, I can speak. The only thing that I would say, my name is Scott.
Excuse me, just so people
sorry.
can hear you.
Sorry.
My name is Scott Ridley. I'm the consultant for Milton Academy on this project, and I've been working on utility issues, policy, and energy development for the past 35 years, and I can say unequivocally that this is a top-shelf project. It's good for the school, it's good for the town in a big picture. In a closer focus, it's a very appropriate use of this site, which is currently being used as sort of a lay-down area for storage and things like that for the school. And this will be a very, very productive use of that site. And the kinds of environmental protections that are being taken are very, very appropriate as well. The other factor here is that you have an excellent team working on this. We went through a rigorous process of the solicitation. Amoresco is a highly reputable firm. They've done a lot of work in Massachusetts. You're probably knowledgeable about them. And the other factor here, too, is that Milton Academy, as you know, is a well-renowned institution here in town, and they have a perfect willingness to work with any of the neighbors on any questions that they have, address any issues, and so I think you really have a top-shelf project here, and you've got something that's going to be very positive for the town and the school.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
You said you're going to have a 6-foot fence around, security-wise. Are there going to be security cameras in this site?
No,
No, we're
we
not
don't.
planning on security cameras, just a 6-foot fence.
Okay, you're not concerned with kids scaling the fence?
Milton Academy kids?
I've known some pretty wild Milton Academy kids in my life.
Remember that boarding students can get out of control around there.
No, we're not planning to put a camera system on it. This is Amoresco's site. I mean, this is their equipment,
Okay.
so.
You mentioned an educational component for the students. How will that work? I'm just curious. Will the students be at the site occasionally?
Sure. So we actually haven't worked out exactly how we're going to put this as part of our sustainability efforts. We're actually going to be starting a formal sustainability committee this year, which is great. So I think for those of you who have seen our science center, we actually have built in some of those environmental aspects in terms of water filtering and others into displays as you walk into that center. We have a community garden, and we've been doing the projects that Dennis had described. So we're trying to figure out how this actually fully integrates in. So we don't anticipate necessarily having a lot of students, walking up the street, kind of going to the site, but we do anticipate that we will be getting readings from the site and having them understand what that's doing. Part of what Dennis has been doing as part of his work over the course of the last 5 years in particular is actually looking at trends. He literally can graph today's energy trends for the use of Milton Academy, and I anticipate that that will become a learning tool as we're able to show people what it is that the solar site offsets and how that looks at different peak times during the day.
Heidi and Dennis, Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're also starting a composting program for the academy, too, so.
You talked at potentially being about a 3-month program for construction. What type of traffic, potential traffic concerns might you have with a project like this, if any?
I don't really see much. We can do the parking right off-site there. I mean, so you won't see cars.
So with the utility, it won't impact Randolph Avenue or?
No, I mean, we're talking, I think, what did you say, 10 or 15 people per day, I think, working in.
So minimal?
Minimum, yeah.
There will be some delivery of equipment with trucks, and we'll do that all on the same day, and we can, schedule it according to what we need. So we don't anticipate needing to block off a road.
What's nice about this site is there's enough room to turn around and go into the site and turn around. And
You have 5 acres, pretty big.
yeah, well, it's really an 11, 12-acre site,
Yeah,
so.
great.
Well, you've met with Mr. Gordon, it sounds like you're going to be meeting with some of the other abutters, which
Yeah, as soon as
which is a
we
good
wanted
practice.
to meet with you people first, but we only have 3 or 4 abutters there. We're our own abutter for the most part.
But it sounds as though this is really not going to be too much of a burden to the neighbors and the abutters, traffic-wise, or
No, once this is in
from
place.
light, or from any other reason, because you'll have a buffer around it.
That's right, and there won't be any, as I understand it, there won't be any special light installations or anything, so it will continue to be dark the way it is today. And because we're not building on the site, we're not putting any kind of building there, it shouldn't change the nature of the use of Gun Hill Street.
Really minimal impact for a real positive outcome. Yeah.
That's our goal, yeah.
And what percentage of the power will that supply to the academy?
About 20% to have
Well,
that,
including
right?
our
Including
existing.
everything.
Including your existing, okay. That's good. Any other questions? Okay, great. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to
Sounds like a
Milton
great
High.
project.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you all.
Okay, where are we at? Yes. All right, going up.
Want to turn up those TVs?
My bookmark thing's not working. Not going back up. Let's see. Okay, we're going to skip to item 10 on the agenda, which is a conference with Todd Hamilton regarding the Hillside Street property. Todd, would you like to come up, and Marion?
Good evening.
Good evening.
State your name for the record, but
Todd Hamilton.
And I'm Mary McKettrick. I'm Todd Hamilton's attorney. He asked me to be here with him tonight, but he's going to explain the situation.
I've heard you've made some good progress.
Yeah, it seems to be. It isn't completely done and executed. We'll see if it follows through what I've been told. It seems to be. Webb Collins and Paul Kaczynski have done quite a bit on it. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So at this point, the neighbors all have a piece of paper they're going to sign that they're for the project, and they're going to waive their appeal rights. And a bunch of neighbors got together to buy one of the lots. So that part of it's pretty much, I guess, wrapped up from what they're telling me. It just comes down to now that I have to satisfy the landowner, Mr. Fandry, that he's got some security going forward with the town, because the last time the planning board denied the 3 lots, he is gun shy. And I haven't spoke to him. I'm trying to get everything together to put in front of him, and then just pick up a phone and say, here's 23 signatures from neighbors, and that's where I'm at with it right now.
Okay. And you're going forward with a cluster, under the cluster bylaw? Is that what the...
It seems likely that the cluster bylaw will be the better way rather than straight subdivision, given the fact that the lots are going to have to be designed to fit the topography and various difficulties with the site. But We haven't done the detailed plan. We have to do the perk testing first. Then there's going to be a lot of engineering work and design work just in terms of figuring out how the lots have to be situated. But I think probably the two prime moving factors are the perk testing. Each lot has to perk so that it can have a septic system, and the fact that the lot has wetlands around its edges. So, you have acreage, but you have acreage that isn't suitable for building. So you're going to be only in a certain area as you try to create these lots. So those are the constraints, and there may be some choices, but I think Todd Hamilton feels that, that just the really simple drawing that he showed you 2 weeks ago is basically where things are going to have to be.
It's not going to be too much of an adjustment because the wetlands and the property line dictate to where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's a line that moves 10 feet one way, the engineer says, to make that perk work. But, I mean, overall, you have a little box that you can work with, and that's it.
Right, right.
So either way, that's an application to the planning board. And before you go to the planning board, you have to have any waivers of zoning bylaws approved by the Board of Appeals. So the first hurdle for this project, if the plan can be developed, is going to be the Board of Appeals. And then if you get the relief you want from the Board of Appeals, then you proceed to the planning board. That's what they require.
What relief will you need from the Board of Appeals?
You will need some relief to the cluster zoning bylaw and the way it's written in terms of the number of lots that could be created on the site.
That's what I was confused
And
about.
beyond that, I can't tell you right now because it will depend on how everything is laid out, what other, there might be relief required for frontage requirements because the individual lots might not meet the frontage requirements. You really have to study every detail. All waivers of the zoning bylaw in the form of a variance must be applied for before you go to the planning board. So we'll certainly have a more detailed report well before going to the planning board as to what the approach will be and what waivers would be required of the zoning bylaw.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you at this point.
Right,
Without,
so as of right now, it probably would not meet the cluster, as the cluster zoning.
It's a bit more lots than you would be allowed under the
Right.
cluster zoning
Right.
bylaw. I haven't studied it, but some other people have looked at it.
I think it's 2 extra lots.
Yeah, because you've got no affordable, so you get no density bonus, and you get, 11.2 acres approximately with 11 homes.
Right, of buildable land, and
Right.
there's a lot.
And you need
there's-
70,000 square, under the current cluster, you need 70,000 square foot lots in a double A.
Yeah. You know it better than I do at this point, probably. I mean, I've studied it, but I haven't looked at this site in detail for that application. I just do feel that the cluster zoning bylaw still is more suitable for this site, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you arrange space for the lots and other space. So it would probably be more desirable to use that, and that would be the new bylaw that was passed 2 years ago.
Right, right. Okay. Any other questions of anybody, or?
No, I'm excited that you guys have gotten to this point. I think it's great. I mean,
Not there yet.
yeah, but you're close, and I think that you're working really hard. It shows that having some transparency and talking and working together, it could potentially make a very good deal for both the developer and the town and the neighborhood.
I was expecting to see some of the neighbors here tonight. One of them had told me that some of the neighbors would be here. Maybe it's because not everything is fully executed. Is that the situation?
I don't know.
Todd?
I talked to Webb and Paul, and we were on the same page, so I don't think that, I guess the perks are going to tell a lot, and if the perks don't go well, but I'm not perking anything until they all sign it, because it's just a waste of time and money, just running out there and digging. See, a lot of people don't realize it's 24 holes out there that are 10 feet deep. Makes a mess of the place.
Yeah.
There's no sense doing it and cutting all these trees down
Right, yeah.
if everybody's not signing it. What's the sense in it?
Okay.
So, and one person, tortured the rest of the neighborhood, which finally came to light, and that made a big difference when that was exposed.
I'm glad that aspect of it seems to have been resolved. That is really good.
Well, the neighbors have worked hard on that.
I would say a lot of thanks go to Webb and Paul. They've done a tremendous job on this thing.
That's great.
It's great news.
That is good news. So what, you're just waiting, you're having another meeting with the neighbors, or is
No.
there a deadline for getting all of this in place?
I
That you've all
told
worked
them I
out?
wanted to try and have it done this week because I have to get an engineer and a surveyor on board, and if they're 4 or 5 weeks behind on other work, that kicks us into October, and it starts raining heavy, we're done.
Right, right.
So time is, they said they were working on it, so I'm sure they are.
But the process would be to, as soon as possible, go to the ZBA and try and get the variances to get the 11 lots approved.
There's considerable work that has to go into actually laying out a plan with an engineer, and that plan has to be very carefully done before you go to the Board of Appeals, because if you don't catch a variance that's required, you're
gotta
going
go back.
to have to go
Start all
back
over
again.
again,
So
yeah.
we really don't want that to happen. So I couldn't tell you exactly how much time is required to do that, because it's certainly concentrated.
Once the perks are
work.
done, the engineer then can focus what perked, where it perked,
Yeah,
and then they can go.
Okay.
okay.
And from the selectmen's standpoint, I know you want some kind of assurance. I mean, we could certainly, and we've talked about this a little bit individually with Todd, but we could certainly write a letter of recommendation to the planning board and to the zoning board of appeals, saying, basically that all the neighbors support the project, and we believe that it's a good project for the area, something to that effect. We haven't figured out what we would say, but at this point. But if that is amenable to you, I think that
It's
probably what we'd like
it's
to
worth
do.
a shot for me to go back to him with and,
Okay.
put that in the signatures of all the abutters, put that in front of them, and try to move this thing forward this
Okay.
direction and not a 40B.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the letter, Tom, that you're referring to would be for the single-family home development, not
Yeah, the
not for
11
the
homes
LIP.
on 11 homes on 11.2 acres.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question that that would be very good, if the selectmen would be willing to do that when the time comes.
And we can take a vote tonight to do that. We don't have a letter written yet, so we don't know exactly what it would say at this point, but that will hash out over the next week.
I think the most important thing is having the neighbors and the immediate abutters on board, having the support of the neighborhood
Yeah,
association.
we have that.
More important than the selectmen's
Yes,
weighing in on this,
correct.
because obviously, and Todd and Marion and I have talked about this, that the Board of Appeals is an independent board appointed by the moderator. It's rare that the Board of Selectmen wants to be injecting ourselves too much into the Board of Appeals. We've been before them on a couple of 40Bs. We've supported the Historic New England on the Eustis Estate, but I would be willing to, I guess maybe not a letter of recommendation, more a letter of support for the deal that the developer and the neighbors have worked out together, so that we're really just adding our voice to the neighborhoods as we encourage this is something they've all worked hard towards, and
Right.
we'd encourage, I guess, a yes vote or a positive result for this site. But I do think, even with the planning board, which is an elected board, and the Board of Appeals, which is independent, I think we want to be careful the number of times we go to them and respect that they have jurisdiction over some things that is not our jurisdiction. But I think that this would be appropriate to support the single-family home development with a letter.
Well, I think it is
I'm in
tremendously
favor as well.
important. And obviously, we all know what the other possibility is for that land, and clearly you have a motivated seller, and it is 11 acres. It's not often you see 11 acres in Milton, so it could be something far worse than 11 homes.
Well, I think your statement of support is also important for the owner to hear, so it would be helpful to have a
Yeah.
vote that you will
I
do
mean,
that.
Once I'm finished with everybody, I have to go sit with him, and he has a bad taste in his mouth with this town.
Yep.
And with those abutters, and you can't blame him, they've tortured him for 4 years. And the planning board denied 3 lots that should have been approved, that met every requirement of the bylaw. So it's not an easy sell for me to get him to be on board with this, to say, go forward again, get denied, and wait another 12 to 15 months to file your application for 40B. So
Right.
I'm in a tough spot to sell it.
Yep.
The neighbors will be easy to sell. It's this part that's going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully with the support of the neighbors, that's enough to sway them, and clearly, like I said, we can take a vote tonight to write the letter. We'll just have to hash out what the support letter says, but
And that is a very different situation than we faced at the beginning of the 3 lots, even though that would have been a good proposal. The neighbors weren't all together. There was a lot of objections raised, whether, we agree with them or not, is really not relevant. They just happened.
Yep.
So hearing a voice of support from the neighborhood and a voice of support from the chief executive officers of the town, I would think would be helpful, at least with the owner, and I hope it will convince him.
I'm hoping too.
This is the right thing to do.
But I didn't even call him, I didn't want to go until I had everything in hand and say,
Yeah.
can I meet with you?
Anybody
And that
have-
furthers your common purposes. If it helps you with the owner of the property, Mr. Fandry, then it helps you and the neighborhood to come to
Right.
a
And they
proposal that
know,
you
I've
all
been-
want.
I've told them all, when I'm done with everybody, I have to go sit with him. And he doesn't have a lot of trust with the neighbors or with the town, and he has his reasons.
Yep, yeah, I
And
understand.
You'll have your signatures when you do that.
that's why I'm not calling him until I have everything
Right,
compiled to put in
right.
front of him to say, here's your 23 abutters that have signed, they're willing to buy this lot, we have a good feeling from the town, their support. I mean, I have a lot to sell that way, and that's what I'm hoping goes through smoothly.
Yep.
So I'll move that we write a letter of support to the Board of Appeals and the Planning Board in support of, is it Hamilton Development?
Would be Hamilton Realty.
Hamilton Realty and the Hillside Neighborhood Association's single-family home proposal.
Of 11 houses on 11.2.
Wait,
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I think it's actually 13.2 acres.
I don't know.
Excuse me.
No, it's not your fault. I mean, I just
Is it
want to
13.2?
insert that.
Okay.
It's approximately 10 acres of buildable land,
Okay.
but I believe it's 13.2, and I'd be glad to send Mrs. Fagan
All right.
the
I looked quickly on the
actual
GIS
acreage
map,
so
that's
that
where I
you
got the
have it right.
11.2 from.
Yeah, I
All
think
the
it's
letters
15
we sent
acres
have been
in
the whole
total,
site, so.
And there's the 2-acre Form A lot, and then the balance is with that 11 lots.
Yeah, okay,
So I
It's like
think it's about-
13 acres, yeah, I guess you're right, I didn't think of that.
okay.
The details can be worked out in the
Sure.
letter,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
at least that's...
Since it's in the vote, I wanted
Yes.
to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's see, do we have, who's up here yet?
We did.
So we can call it Vicky. So I'm going to move to item 11 right now, which is a conference with Veronica McCarthy, our youth counselor emeritus. Hi, Vicky.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hey, Vicki.
Hello, how are you? Hi. Well, here I am again. I know Tom has heard me a few times, and Katie, you've heard me a couple of times, and David, it's nice to have you on board.
Oh,
And
thanks.
so for the first time, of course, I know Emily sent you the report. I'm sorry for the typos. I'm not a secretary, and, there might be a couple of
Thank you, it was very detailed.
Oh, well, I figured that's the way I could do it. I know you said you like an annual report that tells you what happened during the year that you're reporting on, Katie, and so that's what I did. I went through my
Yeah,
calendar.
I think any
Coffee
typos
break
can be
meeting.
forgiven, given the fact that Vicky is a retired employee of the
Yes.
town who's
That's
doing
right.
this
For
pro
nothing.
bono, all on her own as a volunteer, so.
Thank
So
you.
we're very happy to have you still doing this for us, Vicky.
Thank you. To the Honorable Board of Selectmen, this is my 4th annual report as the Youth Counselor Emeritus for the town of Milton. As noted previously, I retired from my position as the Youth Counselor for the town of Milton on December 31st, 2010, after 33 years of service. January of 2014 began with a Department of Children and Families area board meeting. We meet bi-monthly to address community concerns and support staff as requested by the Director of Areas. I continued to serve as a steering committee member to the Milton Early Childhood Alliance. I attended the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance quarterly meetings. I continued to participate in Impact Quincy quarterly meetings. Impact Quincy is a model alcohol and drug abuse prevention coalition. I attended the 8 a.m. meetings of the Health and Wellness Subcommittee of the Milton School Committee on the last Friday of the month during the academic year. February began with a planning meeting for the Patient and Family Advisory Council at BID Milton, where I serve as co-chair. I continued to attend the Youth Health Connections meetings in Rockland. This is a community benefits program of South Shore Hospital. I was there this afternoon, just to let you know that is continuing. On the second Tuesday of the month during the academic year, I attend the Milton High School Site Council at 7 a.m. On the 25th of February, I attended the board meeting of the Interagency Council of the South Shore at 11 a.m. and the advisory board meeting of the Milton Early Childhood Alliance at 1 p.m. Actually, that was the steering committee meeting. I made a mistake on that one because there's the steering committee, the advisory board meets at night. On March 13th, I began the day at 7 a.m., Milton High School Site Council meeting, and ended the day at 5:30 p.m., Patient and Family Advisory Board meeting at BID Milton. On the 14th of March, I attended the 10 a.m. Department of Children and Families Advisory Board meeting. On March 18th, I hosted the Interagency Council of the South Shore from noon to 2 at the Milton Public Library. March 24th at 1, I attended the Milton Early Childhood Alliance Steering Committee. April began with a meeting at the Department of Children and Families. The 10th was busy with an 11 a.m. Interagency Council of the South Shore Board meeting, a 1:30 p.m. Blue Hills Community Health Alliance Grant Information meeting, and a 6 p.m. Patient and Family Advisory Board meeting. On the 24th of April, I volunteered at the Good Shepherd's Maria Draw Services Fashion Show. This Quincy-based agency is a wonderful resource for Milton residents. My colleague, Diane Ferrari, LICSW, coordinator of the Milton Residents Fund, and I are grateful for this partner. On the 30th of April, I attended the 9th Annual Milton Early Childhood Alliance Professional Recognition Awards Banquet. This is a wonderful tribute to our community heroes. Thursday, May 8th, I attended the Department of Children and Families Area Board meeting. At 8 a.m. on May 9th, I participated in the Health and Wellness Subcommittee of the Milton School Committee. On Saturday, May 10th, I was honored to attend the Milton Hospital Gala at Lombardo's as a guest of Janet Winchester, an outstanding Milton resident. Tuesday, May 13th at noon, the annual meeting of the Interagency Council of the South Shore was held at the Fox and Hound in Quincy, and Milton resident Jack Murray from Department of Conservation and Recreation was our guest speaker. I didn't put that in there, but I thought you might like to know that. On Thursday, May 15th, I traveled to Holy Cross College to find that the statewide Patient and Family Advisory Council Conference had been held on Wednesday. So that was certainly a disappointment, but Holy Cross College is a lovely campus to visit, so it was a nice day. On Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m., I attended the Milton Early Childhood Alliance Council meeting. On Tuesday, May 20th, I attended the South Shore FACS meeting in Rockland from 2:30 to 4. That's what I was at today, South Shore FACS, which stands for Family and Adolescence and Community. And it's, and the town, I guess, and it's against substances, so. That group started in Situate and actually spread to Norfolk County last September. On May 29th at 8:30 a.m., I attended a South Shore mental health event at Lombardo's at the request of my colleague, Deborah Jean Parsons, a Milton resident. On Thursday, June 5th, I participated in proposal review from 9 to 2 for the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance. On June 10th, I attended a conference in Norwood sponsored by the Attorney General's office that was on nonprofits, and they have that kind of a meeting every other year, so that was very helpful and interesting. On June 11th at 6 p.m., I was at Milton High School for a presentation. I'm thinking it might have been Chris Herron. I know we talked about Chris Herron last year, but he's come twice. Once Milton Hospital hosted him, which was very nice. At 7 a.m. on June 12th, I attended the Milton High School Site Council meeting. At 6 p.m. on June 12th, I co-chaired the Patient and Family Advisory Council meeting at BID Milton. The 8 a.m. Health and Wellness Subcommittee of the School Committee began my day on June 13th. I left the meeting 15 minutes early to get to Quincy College for the Youth Council meeting of the South Shore Workforce Investment Board. I've been on that for a number of years, and it's very helpful, and it's a great group. Sometimes we meet down at the Kingston Town Hall, so I do traveling. Wednesday, June 18th, my daughter Caroline's birthday, and of course, David, you know my daughter Caroline, and Tom knows my daughter Kelly, because our daughters had played soccer together all those years ago, and your daughter was in my 8th grade CCD class all those years ago. So it's, I participated in Impact Quincy quarterly meeting at Bay State Community Services in Quincy. We had been meeting at the Quincy Police Station, but Bay State Community Services took over the old JFK Health Building in Quincy, and they've actually purchased it now with some kind of great grant. So we're meeting there, which is very nice. July began with a July 7th meeting with Caroline Kinsella, RN Milton's health director. We are, like two peas in a pod. We spend a lot of time together, and she's wonderful, and I try to be her eyes and ears because she can't be everywhere all the time. So I was with her this morning for a little while. We collaborated on an application to the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance for a mini grant of $1,500 to begin a substance abuse prevention coalition in the town of Milton. So really, it was last summer that we started all of this in earnest because we had a little bit of money. And it's come a long way. July 10th, I attended the Department of Children and Families Area Board meeting. July 17th, participated in a focus group at 5 p.m. regarding community needs at BID Milton, which is a big deal. As you know, being on the board at one time, you know, the community needs and what they give back to the community as a nonprofit is significant, and it needs to be, and so I'm glad to be part of that. On July 24th, I co-chaired the Patient and Family Advisory Council at BID Milton. July 30th, I met with Caroline Kinsella regarding the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. On the 12th of August, I attended an event at Manette Community Health Center regarding services available at the North Quincy location. August 14th, I attended the Healthy Weymouth, or Healthy Way, Weymouth celebration at Webb State Park. And Tom, you know all about Weymouth and how they really have been a mentor to us since we attended the Healthy Communities training a number of years ago. So we're still in connection all the time. Interagency Council of the South Shore held a board meeting that I attended on August 19th. I again met with Caroline Kinsella on August 25th regarding the Substance Abuse Coalition. Thursday, September 4th at 7:30 a.m. I attended the inaugural meeting of the Patient Satisfaction Steering Committee at BID Milton as a representative of the Patient and Family Advisory Council. So there's another early morning meeting that I've added to my schedule, but it's well worth it. September 8th, I attended the DA's meeting for Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition leaders. The DA is very active in all of our efforts. On Thursday, September 11th, I attended the Department of Children and Families Area Board meeting. As you can see, that's every other month. My daughter Kelly and I spent September 13th to the 22nd on a pilgrimage to Ireland. It was fabulous. So I was out of town for that period of time. But I returned to the September 23rd, 4th annual conference on underage prevention, where 14 Milton residents gathered for the first time to officially begin our journey as the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. It was just amazing, because basically Caroline and I reached out to the 12 sectors of the community that the Drug-Free Community Act, Federal Act, asks you to bring 12 sectors of the community together. And so we sent out an email to those 12 sectors and asked if people could come. And so we got, 12 people came, and then 14 Milton residents were there because a couple they were there for because of their jobs. So we all came together on the 14th. Some of us were meeting each other for the first time. Actually, you probably all have your bracelets. I gave one to Emily Innes before she left, but did you get these from Caroline Kinsella? This is Milton.
Oh, wow.
You remember these from? It's Milton Goes Red.
Yep.
And let's see, we got a few here. Sure. Basically, we purchased these with part of our $1,500 grant from the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance, and it was a wonderful event. We held it in September, but I thought I'd still mention it since the beginnings were here, because at that meeting, the brand new health teacher at Pierce, Erica Dunton, was at the meeting as a brand new person. We were just meeting her. She's so enthusiastic, and so she had an event in September at Pierce, and Chris Potts, our community policing officer, or not community policing, but student officer, was there. It was fabulous. We passed out these, and we had students from the high school, the SAD group. SAD students came to this conference. They were part of the 12. We had 3 SAD students, plus the SAD advisor, plus the vice principal at the high school, so it was really fabulous. So Erica had this event at Pierce, and it was really fun. I hadn't been to Pierce at lunch. We went for the lunches, the 3 lunches. The kids were enthusiastic, and the high school kids had the questions. We took our lead from Quincy. They've done this before. They had some alcohol and drug questions, just a few, that they asked the kids, and there was a contest, and of course everybody got the bracelet, but we had we had prizes that the coalition gathered from various people in town, and it was a great event. So that's where we got the bracelets from. And we just loved the name Milton Cares, and we loved Milton Goes Red with the red and white colors, and it just was a really nice day. So that's where they came from. And so, you know, as I said, I was at Webb State Park with the Weymouth group, which was lovely. And then we went on to the conference when I came back. And now the conference for this year is September 29th, and it's going to be at Lombardo's. See, we had to go down to Hingham for this other conference. It was down at the senior place in Hingham. I'm blocking on the name, but do you know the?
Linden Ponds?
Linden Pond,
Okay.
yes.
Mhm.
And because Norfolk County was invited, there were too many, I mean, there were over 200 of us there. And so now we're going to be at Lombardo's this September 29th because they have more of a capacity there. So it's really exciting that we brought it to Norfolk County since it's been started in Plymouth County. So now we're, you know, working together, which is great. And then on Saturday, December 27th, Caroline Kinsella and I participated in the Milton Hospital Community Health Walk and cheered for the Milton Health Grant winners. And of course, the health department was a winner last year. And with the money, we produced our first brochure, which I think you're getting the inaugural copies, because when I went down to Caroline today, she just got them back. And it's just a beginning, but we're just delighted that we're able to have something in print now. And we have a couple of resources that are mentioned here. And of course, the Board of Health is sponsoring this whole thing, so that's great, and it tells what the police department does and ways to get involved. And we have our next meeting September 9th, and being held at BID Milton in the Nandroni Center. We can't get in there till 7:30. It's a very busy center, and but we are going to be back there. Our biggest meeting so far has been held there. 33 people came. We had clergy, we had invited the clergy last year, but this town really has gone through, I mean, it's practically a whole new clergy association. I think the oldest member is our rabbi, and he's been here maybe 10 years, right? Everybody's either retired or gone to another community. So the clergy couldn't join us last year, but we've had a couple of clergy members, a couple of women clergy members at our meeting back a couple of months ago. We held our last meeting here downstairs in, I think is it called the Carol Blute Room? Is that the big room? Mm-hmm. And Milton Hospital came because they got a big chart grant. And so we're all part of all kinds of exciting things that are going on between substance abuse and mental health. We're trying to do what we can on all fronts. And on September 30th, Caroline and I met with our technical assistant provided by the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance mini grant. Milton resident Deborah Milbauer provided some professional technical advice regarding our Substance Abuse Coalition work. I attended the October 6th meeting of the Substance Abuse Coalition leaders, hosted by the District Attorney's Office under the leadership of Ryan Walker, who has been a wonderful partner in our coalition building. And I just heard at today's meeting, I was devastated. He just got a job with the Department of Public Health. See what happens? He's so good. Now he's going to be going off, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but his last day will be September 9th. He does have a coalition meeting that morning, so I will see him, but I'm sad. I didn't know this when I wrote it, that he's moving on, because he's been a wonderful help to us. Participated October 9th, 7 a.m., Milton High School Site Council meeting. October 21st, I attended South Shore Facts, and as I say, Situate's the leader in that. I attended the Milton Early Childhood Alliance Advisory Board meeting on the 22nd of October. The 29th, I attended the Mass Area Planning Council meeting, which is very interesting. I go to those occasionally, and I know we have a Milton resident that's part of that. I think he's the treasurer, Tabor?
Tabor Keeling.
Yes, yeah, so that's great. November 5th, from 9 to 3, I volunteered at the Institute for Patient and Family-Centered Care Conference that was held in Cambridge. Very interesting. So I was representing the PFAC at Milton Hospital. November 6th, 7:30 a.m., attended the Patient Satisfaction Steering Committee. It's been an interesting thing, you know, different doctors that here live in town and are pretty renowned, you know, give their speeches. And the last meeting that we had, there was a town, he wasn't a town resident, he lived in Canton, but he's the Channel 7 anchor on the 7, on the night news. if anybody knows him. I didn't know him till he came, but he was very good, and he had a
Jonathan
wonderful...
Hall?
Pardon me?
Jonathan Hall?
No, because Jonathan does live in town, doesn't he?
He's a resident.
Yes. So this gentleman, my goodness, Ryan something or other, but Channel 7, I guess I don't watch it that much, and he's the night anchor. It's very, very delightful, but he had a fabulous experience at Milton, so was really coming to sing the praises and say how great it was and how he chose it over other options that he had. Didn't know what he was walking into, but was really happy about the whole thing. So that was nice. So the rest is pretty much, I don't think there's anything else, but just in any ways, we're coming to the end of that year, which is nice. I don't think there's anything else new, just that I kept going to all these different things. And as I said, I did go to Kingston Town Hall, forgot the G there, but for the Youth Council of the South Shore Workforce Investment Board, as Milton's representative, I remember, and I think I've told a couple of you, I remember when I first started going, they said to me, you know, we've never seen anybody from Milton since John Cronin, so it's been a long time. There were people, nobody really was assigned to do the workforce investment stuff, so so we've had a long relationship with them, which is, and lots of changes in that arena, but it's been good. And then the only other thing was the 17th, the Systems of Care meeting at South Shore Educational Collaborative, and that's a group of mental health and social service providers. And that's it for 20.
Oh, I must admit, you've had a busy year.
Well, I remember last time, Tom, you said, oh my God, I'm tired just listening to it. So, but it's really nice being here again. And
It has been a busy year for you, Vicki, but a lot of good organizations that you're involved in, and I'm especially glad you're involved with the Patient and Family Advisory Committee at the hospital.
yeah,
I have to put in a good plug for the hospital. I'm no longer on the board of the hospital, stepped down many months ago, last year, but we're lucky to have a great hospital in our town.
we
Yes,
really
excellent.
are.
And that Patient and Family Advisory Council that Vicki serves on is fairly new within the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Vicki, anything on the horizon for this coming year that's really
Well,
different?
actually, the coalition is huge, because you may have heard the year grant from the Blue Hills Community Health Alliance, and that entails a ton of work, because they want deliverables, you know. We're giving you this money, and so luckily, we have the 2 Milton residents, Lori Stillman, who really wrote the grant, and of course, she's a professional public health person.
Right.
So she answered the questions.
Right.
And, you know, the only 2 organizations that got the grants, there were 3 grantees, Town of Milton, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. That's huge, National Alliance, you know, NAMI, and Quincy Community Action. You know, they got it for an obesity thing, and obesity is one of the things for Milton Hospital, so I'm sure they're going to hook up, and they want us to hook up with the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, which we have really in one sense, but Lori's doing some more work on that, because it's all connected. And they're trying to get someone into the police departments for mental illness. And I know, you know, we have somebody now for domestic violence, and I know that's on your agenda tonight, but this is my, my other bracelet is, it's from Dove, and it's No More, and I actually got that at the Milton Hospital Community Health Day, because they had a table there. And I did a lot of work with Dove when I was still working, and I know the executive director pretty well and all. So it's good, because there's all that institutional knowledge, David, from 33 years, and then it's still relevant today, because those things, unfortunately, a lot of those things just don't go away. So at least if we're always...
I want to thank you, Vicki, for putting together, especially this new pamphlet. I think anytime you can get information out to people, you know, who may need help, or gives them an opportunity to reach out and find a way for help. I happened to go to school with Chris Herron back in the day at Boston College. I was very friendly with him, and spoke to him after he began his rehab, and he's done a great job speaking across the country, and I know he's been to Milton a couple times. And, you know, just recently, or just today in the paper, where the Attorney General was talking about all the issues with heroin abuse and how it's laced with another drug, and how the cases have gone through the roof. It's ever so more important for people and families especially to know that there are people out there like you working so hard and diligently in their interests, you know, and I think that it's incumbent upon us too, as a board, to work with the police department. I know we've had prior discussions with the chief about potentially getting into a regional network, which could be very helpful to the town of Milton, I think, and beneficial, at least for advocating against and for supporting families, which is important, so thank you.
Oh, sure, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Vicki.
See everybody.
Okay, next on the agenda, do we have, who's it?
Yes.
We do, okay. Okay, let me get back to that. Okay, we're going to jump back to item 9 on the agenda, which is a conference with Who's It Club for change in officers. Hi.
Thanks for having me today.
Good evening, Mike.
All right, Mr. Burns.
Will you just state your name for the record, please?
Michael Hogan.
Okay. And basically, we're talking about a change in the new manager at the Who's It Club, is that?
Yes, I'm taking over from executive chef as acting club manager, effective June 1st of this year, and continuing on, hopefully for the long run.
Okay, you're replacing somebody that's been there for a long, long time, huh?
Yes, I've myself been with the club 10 seasons in the past. I worked there 6 seasons as a kid, 2000 to 2006. Traveled through a number of other clubs, and I've been back as executive chef at the Hoosick since 2012.
Okay.
I know the ins and outs, I know the membership, I know both towns of Milton and Canton fairly well.
You're replacing Patty Lamb as the manager.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any questions, or?
No, the paperwork looked like it was in
Looks
order.
like it's in order, yes.
Everything was in
Yep.
order. So I'll propose a motion to approve the appointment of Michael Hogan of 182 Safford Street, Quincy, as the new manager of the Milton Hoosick Club Incorporated.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
All right, congratulations, Michael.
Excellent. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Mike.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we at now? Okay, item 12 on the agenda is a discussion of the safe routes to school with John Thompson, town engineer, and Joe Lynch, DPW director,
And John.
and John Flagg. Gentlemen?
Good evening.
Good evening. So, we are here tonight basically seeking various right-of-way acquisitions necessary for the Glover School Safe Routes to School project. For those that don't know, the Safe Routes to School program is a federal program. It's administered by the state, basically aimed at, increasing safety for children basically walking and biking to school. Believe it or not, the Glover School applied for the Safe Routes to School program over 9 years ago. And over the years, just by participating in various programs at the school, like, I think they call them walking school buses, and having bicycle safety classes and things of that nature at the school. Eventually, they became eligible for an infrastructure project. And that's ultimately what I'm here tonight in support of. The project, as proposed, was designed by a consultant that was basically hired by Mass DOT with input from school officials, from town officials, and from the neighborhood. And the project includes sidewalk and curbing construction along Brook Road and Canton Avenue, improvements to the Canton Avenue at Brook Road intersection, roadway paving, striping and signage improvements, and also crosswalk improvements. If and when the project is approved, the project will also be constructed by Mass DOT, or by a Mass DOT contractor, and ultimately it's 100% funded by the federal government through Mass DOT. Since the funding is ultimately federal transportation money, the Federal Highway Administration requires that the right-of-way for the project basically be absolutely locked down and secured prior to them releasing the funding. Basically, they want to make sure that, once the funding is in place, there'll be no snags, and construction can go off without a hitch. And ultimately, the municipality, in this case Milton, is responsible for acquiring all the right-of-way interests. For the case of this project, there's 2 permanent easements that are required. One is on a Town of Milton parcel controlled by the Board of Parks Commissioners, and one is on a Town of Milton parcel owned by or controlled by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Parks Commissioners parcel is the Turner's Pond parking area. And I believe you have the easement plans in your packets. Essentially, the project is proposing to construct a formal sidewalk through the Turner's Pond parking area, where now it's just sort of Jersey barriers, and kids sort of are off to the side trying not to get hit by cars. This project will build a formal curbed sidewalk through
Just
that.
in the parking area? You're just in the parking area itself?
Through the parking area.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Where the barriers are now, essentially.
Right. And then after that, they'll still use the pathways?
Exactly, exactly. The Board of Parks Commissioners, I met with them last week, and they have already voted to approve granting the selectmen that easement. And tonight, we are asking that the Board of Selectmen basically accept that easement. The second permanent easement is on a Town of Milton Board of Selectmen parcel, and that's designated as E2 on the easement plans, and that's essentially in the grassed area abutting that parking area. And it's just for the purpose of reconstructing the existing sidewalk in the same exact location. The easement is necessary because that sidewalk slightly meanders off of the Canton Avenue right-of-way and across the Town of Milton parcel, and ultimately the federal government wants to make sure we have our T's crossed, so to speak.
We're not going to sue ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. So we're also seeking tonight that the Board of Selectmen grant that easement. The remainder of the right-of-way acquisitions necessary for the project, beyond those 2 permanent easements, are temporary easements, which are obviously not permanent. We're in these cases asking for 3-year easements, which is what the federal government likes to see, just in case, for whatever reason, the project gets delayed, or if the funding gets delayed, you still have a window of time to complete the project. The project itself is not going to take 3 years. It will likely be done in 1 construction season. Hopefully next year if all goes well.
So we're looking at something similar to the Central Ave construction project in terms of time?
In terms of timing, my guess would be that they might start construction in the spring away from the school, and they'd probably, in the areas in the intersection.
School gets let out.
Wait till school lets out and have everything completed before, school resumes in September. Of the 25 temporary easements that are required for the project, 3 of them are on town-owned parcels. 2 are on Board of Selectmen controlled parcels, and they're designated as TE14 and TE20 on the easement plans. And these are just basically for the purposes of staging, for grading and transitional work to meet the new sidewalk construction, which will all be on town, within the town's right-of-ways, I should say. 1 temporary easement is required on the same Board of Parks Commissioners parcel for the same reasons of grading and transitioning, basically. The Board of Parks Commissioners already did approve that temporary easement, and my understanding is the Board of Selectmen doesn't have to take any action on that. I think them granting that temporary easement is sufficient. The 22 temporary easements are basically required on private parcels of project abutters, basically. They're various sizes in different locations, and we're seeking selectmen approval tonight as well to basically take 22 temporary easements in the form of an order of taking, in which property owners are awarded damages for those easements rights based on the required easement sizes and on certified appraisals, basically, that were done at those locations. John Flynn has prepared an order of taking, which details the size and the location, the owners, and the damages that would basically be necessary to award to these abutters for those easement rights. It should be noted too that, you know, during the notification process, as we were reaching out to these residents and sort of letting them know the process we're going through, they were given an opportunity to donate these easements to the town in the form of a certificate of donation that we included with the mailings, giving them a chance basically to waive.
And they all understood that? They all understood the tax deductibility of that?
I guess they may have wanted to, you know, speak to an accountant or whatnot, but at the end of the day, none of the residents did ultimately decide to waive their right to compensation.
I got to say, I was a bit taken aback by the dollar value of those easements. Basically, since it's taking our Chapter 90 money, which is woefully underfunded to begin with, and what we use to build roads, what we used to reconstruct roads with and sidewalks with, to the tune of probably 25, well, when you consider the cost of the appraisers and everything, you know, 35 to 40,000. That's a reasonably good-sized road that we're not going to be able to pave this year because of that. And I'm just a little disappointed. Well, I guess very disappointed in the residents of our town that they don't see that, you know, for their $1,000 or $1,500, you know, they're really causing the town to forego. You know, granted, this grant, you know, and I would not vote for this thing because it is going to provide tremendous resources, and it's going to be a tremendous benefit. But I just am disappointed. I got my 2 cents. That's all.
Sure. I hear where you're coming from, Tom. I was surprised too to see some of these amounts, but I guess the benefit is we're getting a large federal grant to pay for a good project.
Yeah, and it's going to do a lot of repaving that we wouldn't otherwise been
Yes.
able, and make a lot of great road improvements and sidewalk improvements and signage improvements that is needed. So.
But I understand your sentiment. It's too bad we didn't have more people willing to. I wonder if they did know. I understand that it could be a tax deduction instead of the payment, but who knows?
I'm sure most of those people are in a 30% tax bracket, and you know, so a third of it would have come back to them anyway. So, but so be it.
That being said, I guess John, town council here, has crafted the instruments necessary, I guess, to sort of set all this into effect, and has also crafted the motions, I guess, that the selectmen would have to.
Yes, we have a bunch of them before us.
Okay, so it's a long one, but I'll propose a motion to approve and sign the following document regarding the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Safe Routes to Schools program in order of taking for a temporary easement for a temporary staging area related to the construction, maintenance, and repair of traffic and pedestrian safety improvements in conjunction with the program. Said temporary easement is over 22 parcels of land described in said order of taking in Exhibit A attached thereto and shown on the plan, the easement plan, described in said order of taking. A grant of easement by the town of Milton, acting as both grantor and grantee by its Board of Selectmen, together with the perpetual right to construct, reconstruct, install, relocate, inspect, maintain, repair, and/or replace roadways, curbing, and sidewalks within the area shown as parcel E2 on the plan, the easement plan, described in said grant of easement. A right of entry granted by the town of Milton by the Board of Selectmen to the town of Milton, the Milton Department of Public Works, and any contractors hired by the town of Milton for the purpose of construction, maintenance, and repair of traffic and pedestrian safety improvements within the area shown as parcel TE14 and parcel TE20 on the plan, the easement plan, described in said right of entry. A grant of easement by the town of Milton by its Board of Park Commissioners as grantor, to the Town of Milton by its Board of Selectmen as grantee with the perpetual right to construct, reconstruct, install, relocate, inspect, maintain, repair, and/or replace roadways, curbing, and sidewalks within the land shown as parcel E1 on the plan, the easement plan, described in said grant of easement.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John?
Mr. Chairman, could I just mention that these two gentlemen, and in particular, John Thompson, did an inordinate amount of work on this thing. This is not an easy project. When I got involved, they had probably done about 80% of the work. It involved a lot of work with the Department of Transportation and the engineer, but extremely labor-intensive and detail-oriented, and they stayed with it.
Yes.
There are some pretty strict requirements for two reasons. One, that's a federal grant program, they have their own rules.
Right.
And two, because you're taking an interest in land by an order of taking or a grant of easement. There are some rules in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right. Sure.
So it's very, very detail-oriented. They both did a wonderful job, and I think you and the public should know that. It was
Right.
really I mean, the amount of trees we killed was unbelievable, but, and I will say that the...
We're going to be talking about the shade tree committee.
Not a legacy tree.
Right, not a legacy tree.
Just make sure of that.
And I will say that the representative from the Department of Transportation that John and Joe worked with was very responsive, very reasonable, I thought, given the circumstances.
Yeah,
And also-
I know it was a difficult project. It didn't initially have support of the residents, and I know you spent a long time just reworking it, and
Just a matter of clarification, typically a project like this will go through one public hearing process. There was marginal, if that, support at the first hearing, and we took the comments raised at that hearing, went back. DOT typically would have walked away. We went back to DOT and said, well, I think we can deal with these comments and kind of revive the project. Had a second public hearing, it had unanimous support with the second public hearing, so it really, really went through a very arduous vetting process, and now the folks who live there are embracing it.
good, good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And to town council for all your work as well,
Yeah.
John. Thank you all.
Mine was small, theirs was huge, but happy to help. Thank you.
Actually, you know what? As a matter of housekeeping, actually, I wanted the selectmen, if possible, to vote one additional motion just to authorize the town administrator to sign any additional forms that Mass DOT may have, which are redundant in purpose for their underwriting.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, John, for all your
Thank
good
you
work.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item 13 on the agenda is a discussion of sewer inflow investigation contract with Joe Lynch.
So thank you very much. As you know, we have a very aggressive, in fact, we talked about this at the rate-setting discussion a couple weeks ago. We've had a very aggressive program in removing inflow and infiltration. Most of that effort's been concentrated on the infiltration piece of it because those leaky pipes that are in areas of high groundwater, low-lying areas, they leak for an extended period of time. They take on the most amount of water. We've done a great job in removing that. I think we've seen that in the reduction of the rate at which our assessments are increasing.
Going up, yes.
They're not dropping, but the rate at which they're increasing is really tapered off. Leaving the next second piece of that I, the first one being infiltration, the second one being inflow. And what we've done is we've looked at the data we've collected from the first 11 phases of annual reconnaissance, by TV inspection and whatnot. And we've focused and correlated that data to a couple of our measurable components, which are pump stations that have flow meters and totalizers on them. Simply put, is we can look at a pump station and we can see on a dry day what it puts out. We can see on a wet day what it's putting out. And it disappears after that wet day, meaning catch basins, roof leaders, perimeter drains, sump pumps are likely tied in. When that rain comes, hits,
Going
pumps through,
sewer system.
our system sees it, and then it goes away. It's, just to underscore that, the Lower Randolph pump station and the Audubon pump station, which these two areas focus on in a contributory fashion, see 22 times the flow immediately following a rain event than it did the day before and the day after the rain event. Now, again, it's a short window. It's all happening in a 24-hour period, so it's not, you're not getting a heck of a lot of flow over the length of, over the course of an entire year, but you're getting a substantial amount of flow during those events. And it
Cost for that, is leaking in, or there are people hooked up?
All of the above. And what this, it could be anything. It could be catch basins. It could be manhole covers themselves that have leakage around them. So what this program does is it takes an evaluation and investigation piece and takes it out to the street. And you really do this in dry weather, and you do two things. First, you smoke test, and then you dye test. And the dye test is in two components. You do dye test flooding, and then during a wet event, you do dye test beforehand, just to see what the sources might be. So what that does is it helps us diagnose, what areas we want to go after, and, is it value effective to get that flow out of the system. The two areas that we're looking at, as I said, are tributary to the Lower Randolph Station and the Audubon Station, and that means something to me. It may mean something to you, but it means nothing to people at home. But what it really means is it's Winter Valley, it's Elm Street, Wendell Park, heading down towards Pine Tree Brook, where the Audubon Station is. It's very focused in that area. But then from there, the Lower Randolph includes everything from Chickatawbit all the way down, past Hillside, that's served by sewer. Most of Hillside doesn't have sewer, but that part that does have sewer, Heather, Mark Lane, Randolph Ave itself, and then the whole hill by Harborview and Ridgewood and whatnot, and Hallen and Woodside, and that whole area. So that type of work, if this Board of Selectmen authorize us embarking on that endeavor, would begin this fall, late September, early October, before the season changes while it's still dry. We obviously have to correlate it to weather conditions. Groundwater tables are low, and then we just simply have to watch the major rain events to schedule the work. Huge public notice and public information component to this. When we're in the neighborhood, we're pumping smoke into the sewer system. People need to know that smoke coming out of the ground
Isn't bad.
is expected. So we have to put that sort of notice out. Police department, fire department are on board. They're going to know exactly what areas we're working on, when we're working. And
Now, is there a possibility smoke gets in people's houses because of it too, or?
if that's the case, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, smoke will undoubtedly get in people's houses, and those people then would need to know that you've got a problem with your sewer system. You've got a sump pump connected in, you've got your roof leaders, your gutters and downspouts tied into the sewer, you have your perimeter drain tied into the sewer. Those sorts of things could manifest themselves in smoke coming up around the perimeter at the foundation from the outside or coming into your basement. It's not toxic, of course. It's a distinct smoke. It's not smelling like wood burning. It's not going to smell obnoxious. It's just going to be obvious. Not going to do any damage. It doesn't leave soot or anything behind. But it will be obvious. It's something that will be visible. And so all those sorts of notices go out well in advance of actually being in the neighborhoods doing that work.
This is all paid out of the sewer enterprise fund?
It's all paid for under the sewer capital and the MWRA's inflow infiltration grant program.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, no special funding attached to it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Director of DPW to approve a contract by and between the Town of Milton and Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated for the conduct of an inflow investigation in the sub-areas G8A, G8D, and G12A, the high-priority suspect inflow areas, for a fee not to exceed $83,000, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to sign any related documents on behalf of the Board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to take 30 seconds and just announce for the first time our Household Hazardous Waste Annual Collection event is scheduled for this year on September 12th. It's right around the corner, 3 weeks
Great.
From Saturday, 9 to noon. Stay posted to the various outlets. Thing I want to express today that simply is latex paint, don't bring. You can read how to handle that right on our website and in the mailer that you got back in June and July. No latex paint and no alkaline batteries. Alkaline batteries are not hazardous waste. But anything else, chances are we're going to accept it. There are some fees associated. All that information comes out publicly. It'll be in the Times. It'll be in the Ledger, in all the media outlets that the town uses for social media.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, item 14 on the agenda is a discussion of the domestic violence leave policy. And the town administrator will lead that discussion.
Present this policy, yes. Former Governor Deval Patrick, August 2014, signed this leave into act. It is a 15-day per year leave for employees in order to address domestic violence. It's similar to the family medical leave policy. These employees it's an unpaid leave, but employees can use their accrued leave time, which is personal time, vacation time, or sick time. There are certain benchmarks, again, similar to the Family Medical Leave Act, that the employee has to demonstrate in order to avail themselves of this Domestic Violence Leave Act.
Okay, I'll propose a motion to approve the domestic violence leave policy as presented for the employees of the town of Milton.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
I think this is good that we're putting in place some HR policies, and this one pretty much tracks the statute, so I'm okay with voting on this one tonight. I did talk with the town administrator about the fact that as we begin, and we're already beginning, this transition to make the board more of a policy board and the town administrator more of the chief executive, and not so much for employment policies, but any policies that are going to be coming for a vote before the board. What I, as one member of the board, would like to see is almost what the school committee does, put it on for a first reading at one meeting, then put it on for a second reading at the next meeting, because that policy area really is going to be the role of the board. I mean, it is the role of the board now, but it'll become a greater component of the board's work.
First reading discussion and then...
Yes, but again, I read this, I did send over just some minor type changes to make, which I think we were making. So I think, so I am comfortable with voting on this one tonight, given that it tracks so closely to the state law, and it's a good thing. Hopefully it's one of these policies that will sit on the shelf and no one will ever use, but it's good that we have it in place. But I think we should be thinking about that as we go forward throughout this transitional period, so that we have a discussion about it. There's probably not anything that anyone watching on TV or any member of the public would want to have input on to something like this, but for a different type of policy, we might want to have her go through it at one meeting so that the word gets out there, people have an opportunity to contact us if they want to discuss a policy, and then take it up for a vote at a future meeting.
I think it makes sense.
I agree. Makes a lot of sense.
But I think this is good work on the town administrators. We have to put this forward and get it into place now.
And it's a state mandate anyway.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 15 is a motion to extend the deadline for the Hendry's demolition for 0 Central Ave, 131 Elliott.
Okay, do we have a date on that?
I was going to propose September 15th, which is a month from today, which is, we're meeting on September 1st. The town administrator won't be here, but September 15th would at least give us a month to consider where we're going with this. And I would like to...
I have no problem as long as this is our last one.
I don't think we can guarantee it'll be the last one. I think we need to see what happens over the next few weeks. But I do think we should give a little bit of an update on where we're at and what the situation is. I had a town meeting member from Precinct 2 who got in touch with me right before the meeting asking what's the status on the project. And a number of people have asked. It was talked about this morning at the dedication ceremony. For the public's benefit, I think we've said this before, there was a denial by the Conservation Commission back in May of the application that the owner of 131 Elliott Street filed for a site plan. The Conservation Commission previously approved a demolition permit for the Connollys, which is the 131 Elliott Street portion of the building. Conservation Commission denied the site development application. That denial and the subsequent appeal to the state DEP has really created a standstill for this board and put us into a real holding pattern as to what we can try to do here. So the Connollys have requested from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, it's called a superseding order, and that's what they have asked for, asking that the state DEP issue an order approving their permit, which would override or supersede the Conservation Commission's denial. We had a site walk last month, which is the reason we continued the demolition deadline to this meeting. We had a site walk with the State Department of Environmental Protection. Town Council was there, the chair of the Conservation Commission, and one of the Conservation Commission members, our full board was there, the town administrator. The Connollys were there and their engineering team. And we spent, I don't know, must have been an hour and a half walking the site, talking about their proposals. The Connollys filed some additional information that had been requested by the Conservation Commission just last week. The Conservation Commission requested some additional clarification. So the matter is on appeal. It's pending before the DEP. We're hoping to have an answer soon, but they did tell us on the sidewalk that it may be a little bit longer than what they would normally issue a decision in, because they've had a lot of people take advantage of the state early retirement program, and they had, unfortunately, a death in their office, among their office staff. So they're shorthanded, and they're probably going to not be issuing the decision as quickly as they otherwise would. We're hoping maybe by end of the summer, early fall, we'll have the decision of the DEP, and depending on what it is, at that point we'll have to probably look at various options. But that has created, this is a case where the actions of one board has created an impact on our board in terms of the demolition and in terms of what we can do, and we really are in a holding pattern right now while that's pending. So I think we should extend this until September 15th in order to give us a little bit of flexibility to see what happens at the DEP level and what our next steps are.
Yeah, and my only concern with it, well, I have two concerns. Number one, the damn building falling down. And number two is we've been stringing out a construction contractor or a demolition contractor for many, many months now, and that contractor is getting very uneasy. And we risk losing that contract, and that puts us back to square one, and that's a place I'm not willing to go.
Yeah, I think I have those same concerns, Tom. I agree with you on those, and it's very unfortunate that we are where we are with the Conservation Commission, but a number of boards in town have looked at this, and just be very frank, over a number of years, Milton has managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory on this project multiple times. And our board has worked very hard to make sure that we've had good, productive discussions with the developer. We have worked very hard in the last several years to try to come up with a plan that works, that produces a good outcome for that site. The Conservation Commission has statutory jurisdiction in environmental areas, and because this property is within 200 feet of the river, there are certain statutes that apply, and the Conservation Commission might be right, they might be wrong. We'll know fairly soon from the DEP what the state's view of this project is. But I think at this point, the only thing that we can do reluctantly is continue this for another month and to see where we go from there. Yeah, I mean, that being said, too, we're not in any position right now to start a 139 hearing either. So, I agree that we should extend it.
I would agree with September 15th. I think I'm still hopeful. I think that we'll wait and see what this up the appeal brings, but I'm hopeful. I think that the whole town wants something to happen here. I think this board has worked really hard, as Katie said. We're all in support of something good happening there, and I think that the developer, and I think that the Conservation Commission, at the end of the day, will see the reality, and I think it'll work out. I'm just being very hopeful to this because I believe that this is going to be worked out.
I hope it is. That's all I can say. I hope it is. But like I said, my biggest fear, I don't know how that building didn't fall down this winter, but somehow it didn't. I don't want to take that chance again. So, that being said,
okay, so, yeah, I'll propose a motion to extend the deadline for the concurrent demolition of the town-owned property at 0 Central Avenue and Carrick Realty Trust property at 131 Elliott Street from August 18, 2015 to September 15, 2015.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 16 is a discussion of the shade Tree Advisory Committee, which is kind of something I put for, well, first of all, John Cronin, our former town administrator, has requested a shade tree committee, wanted to have a warrant article in October as a citizens petitioner article, which he would have needed 100 signatures. He's not going to do that. And a shade tree advisory committee was recommended by the master plan as well. In light of everything that's going on, and I think it's hard not to agree with the concept of a shade tree committee. We had the ability to form a selectmen's committee that would be an advisory board to the selectmen. I think we should do that. My thought would be to form the committee now, give us a few months to come back in the May town meeting with a warrant article that would actually put it in the bylaws, so that would memorialize it, so that it couldn't be pulled or changed by a future Board of Selectmen. But keep it as an advisory committee, keep it as an advisory committee to the management of the town, be that the selectmen, the town administrator, or we've got several months to figure out who it should advise, but you know, it shouldn't advise town meeting. It shouldn't be a town meeting, in my mind, a town meeting appointed or moderator appointed committee.
Right, I agree.
I agree. I think it should be appointed by the board. I find it to be essential. I do agree with Mr. Cronin's thoughts on it. I think we all do, and especially with the report. And I think that it's something that will benefit the town long-term, since we did get rid of the forestry department a while back.
Right.
Yeah, that was many years ago, wasn't it? Many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the next step on top of getting the advisory committee is making sure there is a source of funds to replace these trees, and that's something we've struggled with in the past. You know, that it gets into operating budgets. You know, usually the DPW budget, but then winds up getting pulled or repurposed at times, or you know, and even though it's a paltry amount of $10,000 or $15,000, you know, we've got to figure out a way to make sure that it stays there permanently. That not an advisory committee that says you should do something, but we don't have any money to do it with. So.
Well, I do think that it's good that John Cronin has given us a draft of an article, so that if we do want to submit this to make it a bylaw committee at some point, we could use
that as a
draft
starting point
and modify it as we may want to. Well, I think it covers an awful lot here, so it is pretty comprehensive. But it also would be a good basis to start a committee charge if we decide to go ahead and appoint the committee now, which you're proposing.
That's what I'm proposing. Maybe come back next meeting and have a charge drawn up, and maybe Anne Marie could kind of start that charge drafted, send it around to us, and be ready for prime time at next meeting.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
We could take the opportunity now to solicit for volunteers to serve on this committee.
Exactly, yeah. Anybody that would want to...
How big would you like the committee to be, Mr. Chairman?
Again, I'm not a huge fan of huge committees. They get unwieldy. I mean, 5 to 7.
5.
I think John, let me just take a look at it. I think John Cronin's committee contemplates 5.
Yeah, 5 I think is a good number.
Fine is.
The way he wrote it was 3 members knowledgeable on tree issues such as arborists, landscapers, nursery persons, and 1 person experienced in municipal budgeting, perhaps having served previously on the warrant committee.
Mm-hmm.
So those seem like pretty
Those are
good
reasonable.
suggestions.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Taking a vote on that, or just consensus?
I think it's just consensus. I don't think it really requires a vote unless you think it does.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't clear.
All right, item 17 on the agenda is acceptance of a donation from the Kiwanis for Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition.
I'll move that we accept a donation from the Kiwanis Club Milton for $200 for the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition Fund.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 18 is Board and Committee appointment, Airplane Noise Advisory Committee.
I'll move that we appoint Michael Andrusino of 225 Woodland Road to the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee to serve through July 2016.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 19 is the board and committee appointments, capital planning committee, and many of these are reappointments.
I'll move to appoint Amy Dexter, Town Accountant, William Ritchie, Consolidated Facilities Director, J. Thomas Hurley of 714 Blue Hill Avenue, Emily Keys Ennis of 300 Reedsdale Road, Leroy Walker of 452 Truman Parkway, and Michael Hale of 500 Brook Road to the Capital Planning Committee to serve through August 2016.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Welcome, Emily, to the capital planning.
Former warrant committee chair, she's a good member.
That's true.
Of the personnel board to represent their
That's
interests.
true. Okay, item 20 is board and committee appointments, Fair Housing Committee.
I'll move that we appoint Thomas Callahan of 16 Orono Street and Joseph Duffy Jr. of 6 Westbourne Street to the Fair Housing Committee to serve through July of 2016.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 21 is the town administrator report, and I can imagine what you're going to report about.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Director of the Council on Aging, Marian Sullivan, asked me to remind you and all residents of the town, backed by popular demand, is the Shred Day that is sponsored by the Friends of the Council on Aging. And this Shred Day will be Saturday, September 26th, 9 a.m. to noontime. The shredding, you can also bring TVs and computers. There'll be a minimum charge if you bring TVs and computers of $10. No items that contain Freon can be dropped off. But this was a well-attended event last year, and many people took advantage of it. So again, it's Saturday, September 26th, 9 a.m. to noon.
Good.
It's at the Council on Aging. And then the second item I wanted to remind the board about and the residents of the town is on Wednesday, September 9th, 7 p.m. at the Council on Aging, is our public meeting on the 25% design phase for the East Milton Deck project. And we're excited to hopefully get this project moving in a forward positive motion and see this come to fruition in the not too distant future, so that we can then put up our second clock that was donated or gifted to the town by the 350th Anniversary Committee.
Okay.
And that is it.
Okay. And picking up on that note, we did have the dedication today of the 350th donation of the clock at the Central Ave Business District. It was very well attended, and it was a beautiful day for it, a little hot. And you know, it's just a great donation, I think. From it's like I said today, it's just a beautiful gateway monument, you know, for people to see as they enter Milton from Boston.
Absolutely. And it was a nice way to thank, again, another volunteer board. We're so lucky in the town of Milton to have so many people that volunteer on special boards and committees, and it was a nice way to thank this committee for all the work that they did for that whole celebration, and then to have this legacy gift. So it was a really nice experience. It was a nice day.
Exactly.
I want to echo those thoughts. I was just amazed by, well, the energy that group puts forward in doing so much for the town. You know, in talking with them all individually, the roles that they play, where one as a town would take advantage or just say, wow, you know, it's a great event. There's so much that goes on, over 40 meetings that they have annually, which is really, they should be commended, and it's all for our benefit as residents. And that clock is a good reminder of all the hard work that they put forward. And what I found today was that clock will go for 100 years, and it's an automatically timed clock with a GPS piece on top that synchronizes it, which is just amazing, to daylight savings time.
Yes.
I think that, you know, getting some information, I think some residents will really be wowed by all that went into that.
Supposedly accurate within, what, 2 nanoseconds or something
Yeah,
like that?
it's just amazing. So it was some pretty good educational information. I liked it.
I think we could consider, if some of them are willing to continue serving the town, and some, and obviously some of them still do, and one form or another, but the Holiday Celebration Committee is one that we really want to rejuvenate and expand upon. There's a group associated
Yes.
with the Legion that runs a lot of the holiday events, but there's a good number of people on that 350th Anniversary Committee who are very good at those sorts of events, and might be able to, we probably should reach out to some of them and see if they'd be willing to serve on the Holiday Celebration Committee going forward for different events during the year.
Yeah, they may.
It's a good group.
I mean, because, they kind of know how to do it now
They
with, what they do on the fireworks and the music fests, and that's really pretty much that same committee. So if they're willing to do it, because it is nice to have some festivities around the holidays that are, if not town-funded, at least kind of town-sponsored, if you will. But I think it is a nice event. Okay, any other member reports? Or?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Citizen speak responses. We didn't have any citizen speak tonight. Future agenda items.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just mention that on your September 1st meeting, again, I'll just remind the board, I will not be in attendance, but the Assistant Town Administrator will be here.
Yep.
We will be putting on the pilot presentation.
Yes.
Pilot committee presentation. And then I was hoping to maybe put your Board of Selectmen goals and objectives on for that meeting. I know Ms. Conlon was going to
consolidate them all.
Consolidate them and get them into one document. So if we could get that, maybe we could put those
And
on.
as I looked at it, because I know I didn't give you anything, but as I looked at them, there wasn't anything that you had on there that I didn't. So if I gave you my stuff, it would be just a duplication of what was there. So.
All right, so then I'll combine them based on that.
Great.
Great.
Okay. So I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Adjourned.